You are listening to the Unglamorous Life. I'm Celeste.
I'm Laurin, and today we're talking about what to expect when you're getting ready for a competition.
So all the unglamorous things of the road to your show day.
And
right?
there's plenty of them. I think a lot of people look at the final product and they see like the tan and the hair and the makeup and the glitzy suit and all the jewelry, and they're like, oh, this looks so awesome. And it is really awesome. As a competitor, I love it. But there's a lot of work that goes into it that if people don't know about it, or they're interested in doing a show for the first time,
this stuff might change their mind.
Yeah, or just change how you approach it, because you need to just know the stuff going into it. Yeah. It's not, the final product is literally 1/100th of the whole process.
Right.
And it's really it's the final outcome. It's like your show day, competition day, but everything that leads up to it is definitely pretty unglamorous.
A shit show.
It's a total shit show.
So I mean, let's
put it mildly.
Let's first talk about like the restrictions that you have to set for yourself. It takes like an extremely strong mindset to kind of restrict yourself for, certain foods, the amount of foods that you can eat depending on, how you diet and like how you do your nutrition.
Yeah, there's so many different types of diets for competitions, and you'll see a lot of them. People all get ready for shows doing different types of diets. So I'm not going to sit here and say that one is better than the other. There's obviously some that are maybe a little bit better as far as like a health perspective, but no matter how you're dieting, you're going to have some kind of restriction, whether it's the type of foods you're eating, the amount of foods you're eating, when you're eating them, how you're eating it, like how you're preparing it. If you're somebody who's used to like eating out all the time, that has to kind of change. There are ways to eat out when you're prepping, but you try to make that very minimal, and you're
like the annoying bush, and you're like, okay, can you have this with and no butter, no oil, and don't let it touch other foods.
Yeah. So like if I'm in a position where I have to eat out, I will, and I'll just get like a lean protein and like vegetables, or like maybe like a plain potato, which can totally fit into anyone's diet. But again, you're trying to limit that because you really never know what's in it and blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of restriction in that for just the diet.
Just going off topic for 1 second. Remember when we went to that restaurant in, where was it? Orlando? And we ordered some food. It was supposed to be just tater tots.
Oh my God. Okay, y'all, this shit is like, that would be so bad if that was like somebody who was actually like allergic to it.
So we were at dinner and we ordered, was it tater tots?
Yeah.
So they were just supposed to straight up be tater tots. And
it was like sweet potato tots. We're like, oh, this is great.
Sweet potato tater tots. Mind you, none of us were like prepping for anything. And so a couple of us ordered them, and we had this argument going on back and forth between everyone on the table. Like, do these have fucking cheese in them?
And I hate cheese. I'm not allergic. I just don't like it. And I was like, these have cheese in them. Like, I'm looking at it like this is something that tastes cheesy. It looks like cheese.
It's got to be cheese. And then a couple other people everyone was trying it, and we're like, no, maybe that's just the consistency of the sweet potato. Because I don't know if I've ever had a sweet potato
tot that would have cheese in it.
I've never had a sweet potato tot. So we had this big argument, and then so we called the waitress over, because it's like a serious thing. If like you order one thing and then you get something else and you have like a serious allergy to it or whatever, like that's horrible. Anyways, she swore up and down.
And I'm like, I'm literally looking at the cheese particles coming, like, because both of them were like yellow orange, but it was like two different colors. And I'm like, this is the texture of cheese. This is fucking cheese. Like, how do you guys not know that? Like, if I was actually allergic, or like somebody at the table had a problem, like that could be really, really bad. So when you're prepping, you're probably not going to order sweet potato tots. So
you know, there might be some shit in there that you're not supposed to eat.
So, and some places, like, it'll be like a chicken breast, and they'll like soak it in like oil beforehand to like make it taste better and like juicier, and like you don't know that. So again, if you have things that happen like that, it's not the end of the world. But the whole point is there is a lot of restriction with your diet. Then you have the whole cardio and training piece. And again, that looks so different depending on who you are, how you're prepping. But most people are going to be weight training most days per week and doing cardio several times per week. Mm-hmm. So there's just a lot of things that obviously takes time. And if you are a competitor, you were most likely training and doing cardio before, but it's a little bit strict. Yeah, it's stricter, and it becomes less of like, oh, maybe I'll do a little bit of cardio this week versus, okay, I have to get these sessions in done by X time, and that kind of stuff matters. So like it becomes very restrictive for like the rest of your life, like what you have time for.
Yeah, it becomes like a militant almost. And then so that kind of leads into almost putting yourself in this selfish mindset. You're like, I have to do that. Like so first of all, I'm choosing to do this competition. You know, no one's like holding a gun to your head unless they are. That's weird. That's like
that's a whole different issue.
But so you're choosing to do these things, and so you're choosing to be selfish, and sometimes that affects like your family or your significant other because, you know, maybe like you don't go out on date nights anymore, or just, you know, for this period of time, or you don't spend as much time doing fucking macaroni necklaces with your mom because you have to train or whatever.
Did you say macaroni necklace?
Yeah. Have you ever? What? You never made a macaroni necklace?
No.
I think that you're thinking of like cooked macaroni, aren't you?
Okay, maybe, yeah.
Okay, I felt like that too. You know, like in kindergarten, you make macaroni necklaces.
I don't remember kindergarten really.
Oh my God. Okay.
I think I have a memory problem.
you block out the stuff that's like, you probably had a traumatic experience with the macaroni.
So it made me like eat the macaroni and I didn't like it.
Okay. So yeah, basically that it has the ability to strain relationships, no matter what kind of relationship it is, because you have to be extremely selfish.
And it's just part of the sport. Like you're focusing on yourself to get to an end goal and get better. So competitions are far different than just like being healthier and like working out and doing cardio and eating right. Like it's very, very different. Obviously, like you have an end goal, you're getting on stage in front of strangers in a very tiny bikini, and the goal is to look your absolute best. So it's a lot different than health. So it becomes this, it has to become selfish at some point. Yeah. And any athlete who is performing at a high level is selfish in some areas.
Right.
So it's just like any other sport. People argue all the time, is it a sport? Is it not a sport? It doesn't really matter. It just matters that like, yeah, you're putting aside a lot of time and it is selfish and dedication.
Yeah. And then, I mean, to go along with that is being selfish, and it's kind of funny and also gross, but like when you're training that much, you don't wash your hair as much, and you don't like your high like
we barely wash our hair anyway.
I know. So it's like, it's just that extra thing that you have to do when you're super tired or you don't feel like doing it. And then also just so your day-to-day stuff, like, you know that you're going to train twice that day. So you're like, oh, what's the point of putting on makeup or whatever? So
I'm just going to sweat it all off.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, well, I look good, so I can just, okay, I have abs. Who needs makeup?
Right. You just walk around with a sports bra on instead. Like, don't look at my face, just my abs. So that's stuff that suffers too. You know, if,
your personal appearance and your time for extra things definitely goes down. So some people, they might keep up their appearance and then other things falter, right? Like maybe their house gets messy, or like, I don't like that. My house always stays pretty clean. And just because I'm like tidy and shit like that. So
shit like
that. But so something has to give, right? In some aspect. So like whether it's like your personal relationships or like the time you spend with other people, or the time you spend on your business, or the time you spend on like traveling or your house stuff or your physical appearance.
Something has to give.
Yeah.
And it's
something will give
Yeah.
during the prep. Otherwise, like you're just not, or sleep has to give, right? If you like try to do everything at once and then you only have like 4 hours of sleep, because probably the hardest thing with me, and so as a competitor myself and as a coach, I've found that, well, one, I really, really struggle when I prep. So like my normal body fat percentage is like, I would say like average. Like I'm not an ectomorph, which means that you're like a naturally really lean person. So I've found in my experience with like coaching people and just knowing people who are naturally really lean, when they diet down and they get a little bit leaner, they don't really feel the effects as much. Whereas some other people do feel the effects a lot more. So as a coach, I have to be very cognizant of that. And we have to try to work around things so people, can feel their best that they can at that point.
Right.
But again, something has to give. Like you're going to have some kind of brain fog. You're going to have some kind of like your speech slows down and you stop doing extra things.
Yeah. No, I remember when I was in the WWE and I was wrestling, and I got a coach because I wasn't getting TV time, and I was like, okay, I'm going to lose a ton of weight. I'm going to get super lean. So I got a coach and I lost like 20 something pounds, and I was like really lean. Like it's just, and I'm a thicker person generally. Like I just sit at a heavier weight and I have a lot of muscle. So I'll say 20, maybe like close to like, maybe it was like 23 pounds. And I was like super lean, but I looked good on TV because the camera just adds weight and stuff. But I found myself not able to like, be my best, put on my best performance because I was just so tired and so weak. And like, I did have trouble, remembering different spots in the match, or being just, you know, because there's so many things that go into entertainment, wrestling. Like it's you're telling a story with your facials and your body, and like you have to remember to like remember where the cameras are, and it's all these things that go into it on top of remembering like what is supposed to happen inside the ring. And I remember it was so tough for me, and then it took me a while to find like a balance where I could actually like do good at my job and still look good. But it is harder for if you're not like in that naturally lean category.
Yeah, for sure. And like the good thing about competitions, I guess, is you're not really, you know, performing. Like you are performing, but it's literally for a few minutes. So you're not doing all the things that like WWE would be, right? Or you're not like say like a powerlifter, right? Like you have to like perform on the platform, right? You have to like lift a certain amount of weight. For this, you can be super weak, you can be super tired. Obviously, you should be a little bit into it because you need to be like engaging with the judges. But for the most part, like when you get on stage, like you are like your weakest, your leanest, your most brain dead, you know?
Yeah.
And then you just kind of like run on adrenaline from like being excited that you're on stage, but you don't actually need all of that. So, but getting there, it does become very, very like just challenging. And that's where having people who understand why you're doing this and understanding that it is a transient thing, you know, like if you are doing this smart as a competitor, you're going to do some shows and then you're going to take an off season and get kind of back to quote unquote normal. And, you know, you have to find that balance, of course, between not just like YOLO, like eating out every night and versus like always eating out of your Tupperware and being brain dead, you know, so like there is a balance there, which is not part of this podcast, but
it is, and then that should be a podcast.
Yeah, that should be a different one.
It affects so many people, their psyche. You know, what's normal, what's to be expected of me, what you know, when can I enjoy myself and not feel bad about it? And
yeah, we'll definitely do a podcast on that too, because so much. There's a lot on that. But that would probably be the hardest part, I would say, of competing.
Well, I think, and for you, because, and hopefully you're comfortable talking about this, you're an all natural competitor, right? So we all know, or hopefully some of you guys know, that steroids play like a large part in the competition world. So they're for men and women, and depending on what you're taking, the steroids can absolutely affect you in negative ways, whether it's makes you more agitated, or I've never delved into steroids either, so I don't really have a lot of.
So basically, for males, it makes a lot more sense, right? Like you're already increasing hormones that are in your body typically, and they're just like exogenous doses, and they're like higher than physiological levels. But it's not like your body's not used to that, right? So when females start taking hormones, obviously they're at far lower doses than a male would take, but it's still a larger like absolute change with like their physiology. So whereas guys, like it just kind of like augments what they already have, this is like really changing how females like feel and their actual hormones. So a lot of coaches will try to put girls on things. And this has stopped a lot. Like this has gotten so much better. Like I don't hear about as many horror stories.
That's good.
Unless people are like not like talking about it. But I think that people really weren't talking about it for a while and then started talking about it and then things got better, is what I'm hoping. Maybe that's just like rose colored glasses. I don't know. But I really do think that it has gotten better because there's more education now. Before, bodybuilding and everything was so like underground and like nobody really talked about stuff. And now with social media, everything's everywhere.
There was a period of time where people were going on YouTube and just do podcasts and just radio shows and just airing it all out there.
Yeah. So I think it's a lot more open now. And if you choose to take steroids, that is 100% fine. That is your choice. You can do that. But the thing that I don't like hearing, and I've heard this a lot, is nobody, if it's a coach or if it's a friend or it's some guy at the gym, whatever, they'll tell people that they need it when maybe they haven't even tried to max out their like genetic potential, because everyone has a genetic potential. Like that's just the reality, right? And some of the standards for the female divisions are very unattainable without steroids. That's just being honest, for like the NPC and IFBB at least. Now, if you're in the natural organizations, obviously you're not taking steroids. So if you feel that you want to do that, then go in those organizations. I've always competed as a natural in the NPC and IFBB and been fine. But, you know, you could argue that I'm maybe not the leanest. But so I just have an issue when people tell someone else to take something and don't like explain it to them, and they just say like, oh, you need this, just take it. So it's either you haven't really like worked long enough to like deserve using them or like earn using them, because it's not like, oh, I've pretty much got to my genetic potential and I want to really like just get a little bit better, right? I want to see how farther I can get, which is fine again. But most people start out and then someone's like, oh, you need this, and then they take all this shit and then their hormones are fucked and then they can't get lean ever again. So a lot of people, and it's not even really like, we'll put this under the bucket of steroids because it's obviously not a steroid, but some coaches will prescribe like T3, not prescribe because they're not doctors, but so T3, which is a thyroid hormone, which can ruin your thyroid for the rest of your life if you take too much of it. And then they'll also put people on Clen, which is more of like a bronchodilatator, but it can help you get leaner. But again, these all these things have like side effects, right? And if people don't know the side effects, then you can really run into some problems. Whereas in all honesty, most people, if girls ran like a little bit of test, they might see the same benefits, but they're taking all this other shit and like not even knowing how to come off of it.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, I just got to get more and more and more. And it's like, no, now your thyroid is like totally fucked. And it's just like bad news. And like a lot of the things too with like the estrogen, like blockers. And then basically like as a female, if you're like blocking your estrogen and you're increasing your testosterone and then you're trying to jack up your thyroid, like your body is like, wait, what the fuck? And it might look good the first few times you do that. And then you can become very reliant on it. And again, if you want to do this, that's fine, but do it in a smart way and don't just think you don't need it to start competing. So if somebody tells you need to take X, you don't need to. And that's usually someone who's very uneducated with like diet and training protocols. So there's plenty of progress that you can make without taking anything.
Especially if you're going from not being a competitor to being a competitor. Like that.
Why would someone even recommend? Like, it's so crazy to me.
She just ranted and she just needs to take a sip of her coffee.
I just need to take a sip of my coffee. I'm so upset.
Just take a second. I mean, I know this podcast is not about steroids, but while we're talking about
no, I think it's important to bring up because it's like the unglamorous side of getting ready for a show. And there's a lot of people who are like, oh, you need this, take it.
And it's not like this is performance based, like, some athletes,
it's so different.
Professional athletes take it, even wrestlers back in the day used to abuse steroids because the life is so hard, and constantly no sleeping and constantly on the road, beating your body up every night and needing to look larger than life and all this stuff. But now there's so much more awareness about the effects of steroids. And
I think it's the misuse.
It's the abuse of it. But now it is so night and day different. They do drug testing constantly, and like it's more, there's more just like knowledge about it. And then that's like my experience with it is, I've seen and worked with people that have taken it or abused it, or even been with somebody who has, or been friends with someone who's taken it and abused it. And it's really is the ugly side of stuff that not a lot of people talk about. And it goes hand in hand with competing. Yeah. So
and feeling like that pressure that you need something. And again, you can take things and you can have great results and like not mess yourself up. Like there is plenty of people who do that, and there's a right way. It's kind of like anything. There's a right way to do things and there's a wrong way to do things. The unglamorous side of competing is there's people who abuse steroids when they don't need to. There's people who diet improperly when they don't need to. There's people who have coaches who tell them to do 3 hours of cardio when they don't need to, a day that don't need to. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So there's all these wrong ways and right ways of doing things. So just be careful, you guys, and just know what you're getting yourself into. And that's
anything. Well, yeah, as a super broad statement, know what you're getting into. But no,
I should be quoted on that. Know what you're getting into. Laurin Conlin.
She's making like a dickhead face too. So then, okay, so that's the side of preparing for it, but then it doesn't end there. Like, okay, so say you do all of your shit and you look great and you're ready to rock on your show day, but then there's so many like really like shitty things that happen on either the night before or the day of your show for you to be that perfect physique on stage.
Oh my gosh, people have no idea. So when you are on stage, people who haven't competed are always like, why do you have this gross tan? And it's obviously not a tan that anybody wants to have off stage. So the stage lights are very, very bright. And that's how, I mean, every stage is a little bit different, but for the most part, stage lights are bright. So it washes you out, and being tan shows off your muscularity better. So if people didn't have tans, y'all, I promise you would be like laughing at everyone on stage. It would just look so funny. So again, the color of the tan is trying to make things a little bit like more even for people and really just kind of bring out the muscularity and not wash you out. So having a good tan is one of the most important things actually for being on stage, especially for people who are very pale, like
people who are like goth, like us, the dark hair.
At least you have like some kind of like pigment to your skin. I'm literally just blue underneath, so it's pretty disgusting. So for me, I have to have lots of tanning, and I have to do like a base tan and then multiple coats and then even more on the show day. So like for me, I'm in like the comp tan from, if the show is on Saturday, from Thursday to Saturday night. And fun fact, you can't wear deodorant with the tan because it will turn your armpits green. And I know that's really weird, but
it's a chemical reaction.
There's a chemical reaction. Yeah. And like for whatever reason, like if you've ever had like a normal spray tan, you can obviously wear deodorant, but the show tans are so dark that there's like different pigments in it and it will pick up green. And I've done it before, and yeah, your armpits turn green. I was like, oh, they won't turn green. Yeah, they're green. It's awful. And then you're like trying to like not show your arm because then it's like you have like algae underneath your armpit. And so I don't know what's worse, smelling or having a green armpit. So
they go hand in hand. It's the same. Yeah. It's, it's what's the lesser of two evils?
So nobody has it. So at least that's kind of makes it better, right?
But it's so stank backstage.
Yeah, backstage is kind of gross as far as like the smell. And like if you are competing, you have to keep your room like super cold so that the tan dries, and then hopefully you don't sweat either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because as soon as you start sweating, the tan gets messed up too.
And it runs, and then it looks like shit on stage.
Yeah. So there's like the tan is like a big part of it. And like if you are somebody who either sweats a lot, like my armpits always sweat. And so that's really fun. I have to like worry, like always like,
oh yeah, we're both consistently sweating like at a normal state. No, but you also have to be comfortable being completely naked in front of someone as well. The person that's tanning you.
You're completely naked when you tan.
You give no shits at that point, right? You're just like, fuck it. But because I 10 years ago, I did a couple of shows, and I remember the part where you have to be careful when you pee because you can't, if it splashes or runs down your leg or anything like that, you ruin your tan.
Yeah. It like literally for whatever reason, whatever the chemical in the tan is with the chemical that's like in your pee, it will just like completely make it like white. So like if you get that on you, like it looks like you just like didn't have the tan on that like streak. So the same thing with water. If like water gets on you, like a water droplet, like underneath will be completely white.
It's so weird and shitty. I remember, like I've known some people, I never did this, but I know people that like pee in a funnel.
I do.
You pee in a funnel. Mm-hmm. I mean, it makes sense. Just don't mistakenly use it for something else before you wash it. Like that's it. Yeah. And there's so many like weird things I've heard of about.
They have like those like standing penises too for girls. Have you seen those?
Haven't we talked about this one time when we were drunk?
Yes. We were like Googling it. So I haven't gotten to this stage yet. I feel like this would just be the weirdest thing of all time. But I kind of understand where they're coming from. So this is originally made for like camping. All the photos of it are like girls camping. Mm-hmm. And so they just like, you'd like stand up and it's like this little like purple penis that you pee out of.
Okay, but it's like got to be like a cup.
It's like a cup. It doesn't look like a penis. Sorry, it's not like it's not like a dildo. Like peeing out of a dildo. It's like an actual like cup.
We should invent that.
So I was like Googling like patents right now.
Patented right now. Give me 1 sec. I gotta look something up. No, but and I'm sure that there's a lot of like first time people or people that don't realize, the mistake and they ruin their tan, or, it just runs down their leg and then everybody knows what they did.
Yeah. But don't be embarrassed because literally every single person who's competed has done that at some point. And the tanning people are really cool about shit. Like they've seen it all. Like they just don't even care anymore. So if that happens to you, you just go and they touch it up. Obviously it can at some point, if you do that a lot, like look like you've touched up the tan. So try to like not do that, which is why like things like the funnel are like really helpful, and just being careful. But a lot of people,
and the standing peeing dildo
is probably your best bet. I'll keep you guys updated on that in future podcasts. But for me, like we don't I've never cut water or like done anything like that. So like some people will, and then they like literally won't have to like pee ever. But I always drink water and don't do anything like that. So I'm always like consistently going to the bathroom. So that's why it's always been such an issue for me, because it's like literally like the amount of times I like go pee is like a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, fuck. Like it's like the only time I wish like we like did like cut water and like I like didn't have to like go to the bathroom. But
Yeah.
again, it's just like the reality of the show. So there's all that jazz. And then, yeah, you have to be comfortable with people tanning you. So if you're in a normal situation, it will be like a female tanning a female. But when I was in Europe, in Italy, so...
Oh my God, I think I heard about this.
Yeah, it was really... So I've done like 17 shows or something. 17, 18 shows. I've done a lot of shows. And I've always been sprayed by females. And like usually it's like female tanners, and then like there'll be like time. So like the girls come in like in blocks of time, and then like the guys will come in at like blocks of time. And just for like privacy reasons. And that's like super, super standard in the States. And then when we were over in Italy, it was like girls and guys tanners. And again, like at that point, like you're tired. I don't care. Like I know it's like their job. Like I'm not like, oh my God, I'm so offended you're looking at me. Like I know that nobody's like really like looking at you that way. Like they're like professionals.
Yeah.
So I was like, whatever. But then like literally it was like girls and guys like tanning together. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, hey, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, I couldn't really, first of all, you can't do anything about it.
Do you find it weird if there was like naked guys getting tanned,
Yeah.
right? Isn't it hard to like not look at it?
Well, yeah. Like you're just like, oh, this is so awkward.
Eye contact.
I'm like, are you wearing a sock? I'm like, should I look? Should I not look? Like, this is like
Maybe
really
that's
gross.
what dudes feel like when girls have like a lot of cleavage.
Yeah.
I
So,
don't
but
know.
honestly, like most people were, and it's very normal over there. So like nobody like batted an eye. Like nobody was like, oh, hey, like look, like I feel like if that happened over in the States, somebody would like make some like creep ass comment. Nobody said one word. Like it was just very normal, because that's just more normal over in like European culture.
Yeah, their culture is so different.
So
than
I
ours.
was like totally fine with it. Like I was just like, whatever, like nobody really cares. But then the fucked up part of it was, so like whatever, that was just like a culture shock, but like not a big deal because everyone was like professional. But so basically where we were tanning was like this first floor, and it was next to like stairs and like an elevator, because it was like a 3-story building. And so the guys there started realizing that they could look over the balcony and see all the naked girls. So, and they were taking pictures and stuff. So then that got a little like, okay, fuck off.
Yeah.
And so then the tanners started realizing, so they would be like, okay, the girls have to stay on this side, so the guys like up there can't like see you and blah blah blah. And it was just like, fucking seriously, like you guys like joking.
Yeah.
So that was kind of annoying. But besides that fact, the mixed tanning, like I don't think that would ever happen in the States because people would freak out. But it wasn't like weird. Everyone was professional. But then the fuck sticks taking the photos, I was like, okay. Really?
Like, and now people are like Googling,
I'm like, you know that we can like
pictures of you naked.
Yeah, right. I'm like, you know that like I can literally see you. Like I'm staring at you.
No
Like,
shame.
I'm just no shame.
They
over
were
there.
like liking the eye contact to like, that's right.
Dude,
like,
no shame. People would come up to me. I was just like posing, like practicing, like my mom was like taking photos. And people would just like walk right up to me and like start taking pictures.
Wait, were you naked?
No. I was in like my like suit. Like this is like me just like before stage, kind of like, okay, like I just ate, I'm pumping up. I want to take some pictures, see how I look. And people just like coming up, taking photos, like really fucking close, and then just like
This is in Europe?
Yeah, and then they just like walked away. Like not like, oh my God, hey, like you look really great, or like, hey, and like nice to meet you. Can I like take a picture?
They're like, I'll need this for later. And then
it was just really weird. Yeah, I was like, if you like, well, I don't care if people take pictures, but it was just like, again, so different. Like,
yeah,
that would not happen over here. People would probably like creep and like pretend to take pictures, like, like in the corner and stuff, or like hide that they're taking photos. But yeah, I don't know. I was like, dude, I can like literally see you right here, like right next to me. Like, hello.
You're like flipping them off. You're like, good.
It's good for my progress photo.
Dick. Yeah. That's super weird. Yeah. Europe is totally different for, just a lot of their, I was with my friend the other day on the beach, and we got to talking about, like, I don't know, the beaches in like the Bahamas, like Nassau, and how the beaches there, you're allowed to just be topless. And it's just, there's a lot of Europeans that vacation there. And I was talking about how like, yeah, there's a couple beaches in Miami that are topless, and like I've been to them before, and it was like, you know, no big deal. It's all adults or whatever. If there is kids around, like I wouldn't feel comfortable being topless. It's just weird. But like in the like a European's culture, like everybody was topless, like the kids, the moms, like around children, like, you know, and you know, the dads in like little tiny Speedos, like their culture is just so different from ours, which I think is cool. It's cool to like just experience different cultures and like tits. I don't know. It's
so
weird.
many boobs.
And also I feel like a lot of them like don't give a fuck like about their appearance. Like some people would be self-conscious, you know, if it's like a topless beach, like maybe they weren't like super confident about like the way their breasts look or whatever. No fucks given.
No, definitely
Yeah,
not.
it's so crazy. I love it actually. And so speaking of like the day of the show, it's an extremely long and drawn out process. It is, you kind of want to kill yourself.
So it's very much like that hurry up and wait kind of feeling, like pretty much all day. And the shows have gotten a lot better because of this, because basically competing was not that big, and then it like fucking exploded, and then things got really, really backed up. And then I would probably say in like the last 2 years, because I go to a lot of shows as like a coach, shows have gotten a lot better. Or even just like shows I'm not at, like my clients will tell me like, oh, I'm already done with this, or like we're, you know, we ran through that. And I'm like, oh man, like pretty impressed with how they've been doing it. So for the amateurs, there are so many people that like you can only rush it so much, right? Like you can literally only like, okay, everyone has to go through like at least one time, you know, like you can't just feel like, oh, I think you should win. Like you actually have to judge. But they've gotten it a lot smoother. Before, places used to be like really late and like just really drawn out. And now, like for the most part, the big shows really like have their shit together and are a lot better, which is really nice. Now, there are still shows that just by default, they're late because there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And
I'm dreading nationals this year.
Nationals, though, honestly, all the shows I've been to this year have been really good. They've gotten really, really efficient. Really efficient.
Just because there's so
many
now. So.
Yeah, they're basically at all the national shows. It's where you have the possibility to turn pro. There's about usually 1,000 people at these shows, and it's over 2 days, but there's pre-judging and finals. So again, part of it is just like it's going to take this long based on how many competitors there are. But usually the ones that take a lot of time are the ones with like the routines, and some of the shows don't have that as big. Like nationals will be long with bodybuilding because like there's going to be more male bodybuilders there, but at maybe like a smaller national show, there's not as many bodybuilders. So then they won't have as long of time that way, right? So like bikini doesn't do a routine. Like we do like a little routine, but it's not like to music for like a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So that makes it, that makes it like a lot quicker. It'll still be a long show. Like there's absolutely no way around it with that many people, but it's gotten way more efficient. And because even I know when I competed, I was on that kind of national circuit from like 2013 to 2014. The times that I went on at the shows to the times now that our clients are going on at the shows is sooner. So, because I'd be like, oh, they're not going to go on until this long. And I'm like, oh shit, like they're already fucking coming up, you know? Yeah. So you have to like really stay on top of it because it can go a lot faster depending on really
good.
who showed up.
I find that to be a good thing. So, you know, because families too, when you invite your family out on your show day, if they don't know what to expect, they can learn to very quickly
now
hate the sport.
It's I'm not gonna sit here and say it's still not a long day. It's still a long fucking day because there's pre-judging in the morning, then there's usually a break, and then there's finals at night. So it does still take a long time, but it's not as like, oh, we went on stage at 2 a.m. and like it's a little bit better than that.
God, knock on wood for nationals. The only reason that a nationals affect me is because I'll be there with Celestial Bodies. Yeah. We'll have a booth, so I know that, you know, we'll have to be set up in the morning for, you know, prejudging stuff, take a little break in the afternoon, and then come back, and then the night show. And then, you know, luckily for booths, you don't have to stay open until 2 a.m., you know, while people are still going on stage. You know, you kind of shut down at a certain time. But so it can be really long and exhausting, and
it's just like a long day, like physically, mentally, like you have a lot of adrenaline going, obviously, unless you're like dead, like you're probably gonna be excited / nervous, you know? And like nervous doesn't mean a bad thing either. Like there's good nerves too. Like you just have a lot of adrenaline, I guess is a really good way to say it. And you're pumping up a lot and you're posing a lot and you're flexing a lot, and it's just very, very like draining. And then it's kind of like this peak of, okay, I've been prepping for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and then it happens, and then it kind of is like you have fun that night, and then you kind of like bottom out.
Yeah, you kind of have like an empty
Post-show
feeling.
blues.
Yeah.
That's super real. We can talk about that as like another unglamorous side of things, because that is very real. Like the post-show blues is...
Yeah, it's like, oh, I've dedicated like the last like 6 months or 4 months of my life to this one goal, and now it's over in a blink of an eye, even though the day is really long. And then like, you know, when you're like, now what? You know, and you're like...
And that's why people get addicted to competing.
Yeah.
Because they get addicted to like that high of being on stage and like looking good and having people like recognize their like competency. And then they want to keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, because like the come down is like really hard.
It's hard to... It's like a drug. It's like hard to normalize afterwards. So yeah, we can definitely talk about that another time. But I think the big takeaway from this is just, even though, yes, the final product on stage and that moment is like your glamorous moment, but every single thing leading up to it is like
Extremely unglamorous.
yeah, it's the antithesis of, you know, it being a glamorous thing to do. So,
and just know what you're getting yourself into if you want to do this. And that's pretty much our like overarching theme with all this. Like, we want to educate people on like, hey, this is what really happens behind the scenes. If you know that and you're still excited about it, like I still get it, like, even though there's like a lot of unglamorous things, this is still exciting to me. Like, I still purposely put myself through this. Like, I enjoy it, but you just have to know going into it what to expect, and it's not all the glitz and glam on stage.
thank you for listening to The Unglamorous Life.
Please subscribe to the podcast and leave us any feedback.
Go to celestialbodies.com
and laurinconlin.com.
and remember, life is unglamorous.